the two things, right? I think the whole AI is a paradigm shift. Of course, you see that a legacy SaaS CRM, the differenters would come out and swing it otherwise. But the reality is that there is a change, right? And the change is happening from bottom up.
Why is the problem that if an AI agent is going to do the outreach, it needs to know who to email, right? It needs the data. Now, where does it get the data from?
Correct.
If it's not the CRM.
I'm just saying that assumption that it sits as a center portion, specifically structured SaaS based systems. I'm just trying to say that the assumption that these applications will sit in the center of the universe is dead.
In the SaaS era, it was the data.
Correct.
In the AI era, it's the actual work.
It's actual conversation, actual activities
that is being done. Then.
Correct.
Everything else is just
Correct.
left inside this.
Correct.
So let's call it system.
There's
no record.
Correct. Like, when was the last time you logged in HubSpot? When you use HubSpot as CRM. So when was the last time you logged in HubSpot?
No, I use high performance CRM.
Hi Ramesh, morning.
Hi, good morning. Sri, how are you?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. How was weekend?
Weekend was good, busy.
The IPL fever has started.
IPL fever started. Just saw the match as well, but it was good. Chennai is picking up heat.
I wonder how much of AI is being used in the IPL.
In the IPL,
it's not something that we cover often.
I think interesting question. I think I'm sure quite a bit. At least I can see that the third umpires are definitely on that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
More decision making.
Decision making aside of it, and probably pretty much everywhere. But it's a good angle to think about, right? But I'm just curious to know, like, how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. I met a bunch of marketers in Chennai. I was called to speak along with Strive Labs, and it was really good that people still take time off over the weekend to come for a marketing talk.
Okay.
But let me just tell you this, Sri, right? How much ever the world is still talking about AI, how marketers, it's AI is like this paradise for marketers, right? Everyone, including
Paradise.
copy, you want everything in marketing uses AI. But I did notice one thing. I just feel that the adoption of AI in marketing is still, I'm not sure if it's an Indian phenomenon or it's across the globe. I think people are still stuck around, hey, content. How relevant is my content? How beautiful is my content? And then a lot of them I don't see them using AI for end to end. Of course, there are applications that are being built on top of AI. For example, one of the Freshworks alumni who was sponsoring the event is just running the entire Google Ads and SEO and everything on cloud. But that's just a beginning. But majority of I didn't see the shift that happened in people's mindsets between being a legacy marketer and becoming an AI marketer, right? I think that part of it is still being scratched upon. People are still thinking PMMs. People are still thinking a big team that is needed to run marketing and stuff like that.
I think it's interesting. People still thinking about jobs to be done. In that sense.
People are not thinking agents as much.
Agents and AI. Why do you think that's? Because I think across the board, be it sales or even, of course, extensively on dev side, product development side, things are AI first now, right?
I think there is a lot of adoption on the sales, on the sales ops, the rev ops side of things. There's a lot of AI adoption. But marketing AI is, I think, constrained with just content creation. It's not, and maybe ad copies. I think that's where it's still there. It's not kind of breached that piece of how marketing just goes beyond performance marketing. But maybe this was because it was a SaaS event.
Maybe.
But I don't know how in the B2C, how this is being looked at. But that was my...
But interesting observation, right? I think, we've been seeing this. I think a lot of places AI is also being deflected quite a bit, right? I think we'll talk about it more. But marketing, definitely on the marketer side, is definitely AI acceptance, I would say, not adoption, is still not at place.
He's taking it a bit early.
Right? But we still pursue content written by AI is just still it's
AI
not
today.
human.
Yeah.
I think things have gone past that. Content written by anybody is as good as anybody else.
Content is
Right?
content,
Content
right?
is
There's
content.
no
Right?
good
Good
content.
engaging content
Engaging
as
content.
enough.
Yeah. On talk about engagement,
Yeah.
you've been pretty active on LinkedIn. You've reached out a little bit out there,
Okay.
or at least people are. It's crazy. And I was looking at comments of your last LinkedIn post, the one where you said that AI agents don't need a system of record, and that's not on the popularity.
Okay.
You're not winning a popularity contest over there for sure. What's happening?
So I think, of course, the legacy.
What went in your head before you penned that piece of content?
Ramesh, I think in general, I think there is the two things, right? I think the whole AI is a paradigm shift, right? Of course, you see that a legacy SaaS CRM, the differenters would come out and swing it otherwise. But the reality is that there is a change, right? And the change is happening from bottom up. It's not
See,
from
you're
top
basically, I'm not sure how much you meant or what you thought while writing this.
down. Okay.
You basically are saying that an entire industry, uh, which is spent probably 20 to 30 years right after Siebel, if
Okay.
I were to say, which is building that database, building
Correct.
that, which has now become a commodity. You've just thrown it into the trash. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, because that's what I thought about when you wrote about it.
Okay.
But let's be honest over here, Sri.
Okay.
Were you really trying to be provocative and trying to get a little bit of virality going on, or do you really believe that CRM is dead? Because we talk about this much, right? And that's not gaining any brownie points, anyways. We've spent about 10 years or slightly shy of a decade. You built a CRM system, and suddenly you're saying you don't need a system of record. What's happening?
So, I mean, if you just take a step back, right? What I'm saying is as simple as that. I'm not saying the database will disappear. If you go look at it, like you exactly said, 10, 20 years back, the whole application, specifically the SaaS application, was born as an interface on top of a database. I mean, you and I were not very happy dealing with an Excel sheet in a database. Instead, we basically had user experience, user interfaces started coming, right? So, and then CRM started building, Salesforce came in, HubSpot came in, a lot of other folks came in, right? I'm just saying that assumption that, it sits as a center portion, specifically structured SaaS based systems, I'm just trying to say that the assumption that these applications will sit in the center of the universe is dead.
But I want to push back on that.
Yeah.
Why is it wrong, right? Why is the problem that if an AI agent is going to do the outreach, it needs to know who to email, right? It needs the data. Now, where does it get the data from?
Correct.
If it's not the CRM?
Correct. So today, I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's the old way of thinking, right? We started thinking that way. We started forcing everybody to basically go to CRM and update the record. We are assuming that the data already exists in a structured format somewhere. That's not the case. But what happens is that is actually you're basically having people go and update the records in the CRM. That is not. Do you think and CRM adoption is the number one problem in every business.
But business is still
right?
running. You still need a CRM.
But the data is not structured in that there. So what I'm saying is that you take an example of customer support right now, right? And it is not a theoretical future. It is happening as we speak today, right? Where if you look at the companies like Klarna, they just announced that AI agent is doing almost the work of almost their, the 90% of their agents.
Yeah.
The real human agents, right?
Yeah.
It cuts resolution from, let's say, few minutes to maybe less than like a minute, right? So that is how things are moving. What it means is that these agents are handling 100% of L1 tickets. They ingest the problem, they resolve the problem, they close the loop. So where is the system of record in this work?
But it's still there, right? The system of record in the ticketing system is still there because it's still logging the information, the interaction between an agent and the customer.
That is there in the database, right? The agent understands
that is a ticketing system.
No, that is not a ticketing system. The ticketing system is what you buy as a SaaS product, right? That is of no relevance today.
So where does it get logged in now?
So today it might be logged in a flat file, if for all it matters, right? Or it will be logged in a database of your preference, whatever you think is your system of record. It could be even your data lake, which is present in your existing business, right? If you look at larger companies, they already have a data lake in their enterprise. If it's a small business, it could be a simple Excel sheet, or it could be even a flat file.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have to buy a CRM, paying per seat license anymore. It might not happen today, Ramesh, I'm not saying this is just happening as we speak today.
No,
To
you
start
seem
with,
to be believing it very well.
yeah. To start with, you will build an agent on top of existing HubSpot, Salesforce, and everything else.
No, I see where
right?
what you're saying, Sri. I see what you're saying as far as the ticketing system is concerned, right? There is a shift in where the center of gravity today is moving from a system of record to a database. But because at the end of the day, it's all about you get a call, you file a ticket, right? You had these conversation and it's logged in. But that's not the case for a CRM, right? CRM is still needed where there is historic data beyond the ticket, right? It's about the customer, it's about Ramesh as a person, Sri as a person. What do they do? I mean, that has to sit somewhere, right?
Ramesh, but you have to understand, right? See, I mean, let's close the loop on the support use case for a minute, right? I think one thing we should understand, it is not this, the system of truth anymore, right? How many people do you think? I think Ramesh, you run a startup for the last 3 years. Are you using a support system?
No, we aren't, but
no, not we are. Most of them are not. Most of them are running on Slack.
Yeah, Slack and WhatsApp is
so
what we
like
use.
Where is the system of record there? So the ticket as an artifact of what you've been believed over a period of time is not relevant anymore. It is relevant if it is basically has a lifespan of few days. When there is a replacement of your laptop, yes, you want to track or there is an order shipping, there might be one, right? But in general, agent conversation, it could be human or AI, is the system of record going forward.
Okay, I'll give you the customer support.
Right?
Okay, customer support is fine. Now let's talk about sales, because that's
CRM.
where the real money is. That's where the BDRs, the SDRs, everyone is thriving in.
Okay.
You're talking about where do these people now log in their deals? Where do these people talk about, hey, I spoke to this person. You're pretty, when we do our meetings,
Correct.
We are getting this data out of the CRM where we know what activities has been taken place. You ask BDRs to create a task for themselves for doing things, right? Now, what would you do otherwise if the CRM was there?
That's what I'm saying. That is the motion in which that's a legacy way of running it, right? I think let's take a step back, Ramesh. Like Salesforce reported 41.5 billion in revenue, massive company, right?
Yeah.
But look at their own report, right? Their research shows that salespeople spend 70% of the time on non-selling tasks.
You see that as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. They spend roughly 10-12 hours a week doing manual CRM data entry. Correct. If AI replaces that manual data entry, where does the data? I mean, there is no value for the CRM after that, right?
I hear you, but where is that freshness of the data going to come from? Like you still write individual. For example, I mean, because you're talking about it very true, and because the data is garbage and therefore the reps are asked to be done. Gartner says 30% of the data is outdated within 12 months, which means you're left with only about 70%, which is
agreed.
Reps hate entering this data, managers, and can't trust the data as well. Right?
Absolutely, Ramesh. The point is that I agree totally with you that there has to be a place for storing data.
Correct.
For business reasons and for compliance reasons.
Is there as yet.
That's for sure.
Not trashing that.
But that's for sure, right? But don't tell me that data has to come from an existing CRM. It might start with that. My agent, which I'm going to build, will work on top of that to start with, so that I can do business continuity. But the moment the agent picks up smarts, right? The moment agent picks up, emails directly, by integrating with Gmail. If the agent picks up the meeting, the conversations, right? Agent would basically have, it doesn't have to go update the CRM again. It will update its own database. It'll update its own storage.
Is that a very SMB-ish way of running, Sri? No, because if I were an enterprise, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate over here.
Yeah.
But if I were an enterprise SDR or an enterprise AE, I'd be just screaming that Sri over here is probably going crazy.
Yeah.
Because we still need that single source of truth. We still need compliance. We still need audit logs, because
absolutely.
You just can't have agents running wild and me believing these agents in this world of hallucination.
Absolutely, you don't have to, right? You still will have everything you need for complaints. You'll still have everything for continuity, business continuity. All of this.
Where is that? Isn't that the system of record?
It is. Okay. If the debate is about, do I need a system of record? If you insist, yes, you will have it, but it doesn't have to be structured, because only human and the UI, for example, what we have been building for the last decade or two, needs a structured data. to basically render in the UI. Otherwise, UI forms will not work. Right?
Okay.
So now we are not in that world anymore. Right?
Okay.
I can basically chat and ask for any database. It could be as simple a flat file which I store in my database. Right? It could be my Elastic or whatever is my convenience data set. I can store it. But the most important point is this, Ramesh, there's a change. This is only a transient period where you will be asked to believe that you need a system of record, so that the companies likes in the likes of Salesforce and HubSpot will still have business going in. But on the side, you see that, right? You see that they're building Agentforce. Salesforce is building Agentforce.
Yeah.
The HubSpot is building Breeze, right? They are all desperately trying to basically connect or bolt an AI with an existing infrastructure.
Very true, because for them it's absolutely mandatory, because
That's the way it is.
that's their architecture, and they've spent years building that. They can't trash all of that and then
Correct.
and now say, so they will do that.
So that's a storyline, because that is a story you're hearing. So they want to keep the database as a center and make the agent as a feature.
But you're saying don't even have the data. Like, so if, correct me if I'm wrong, or is that if what you're saying, in the SaaS era, it was the data.
Correct.
In the AI era, it's the actual work.
It's
as far
actual,
as the
actual
CRMs,
conversation, actual activities
that is being done. That
Correct.
Everything else is just
Correct.
left inside this.
Correct.
So let's call it system.
System.
There's no record.
Correct. So if
Is
you
that
want a
what you're
Kanban, right, I could basically update a Notion Kanban with my deals. What's the big deal? I could do a Monday. I could, if you're looking to have a Kanban board, and that's what you think is CRM is, it's absolutely possible today. So what it means is this, right? So you start with an agent. The agent is the first class citizen. It handles all the messy, unstructured data natively.
Yeah.
Right. It navigates through the complex decision making. It literally, would just tell you what you need. It's like going to Claude and basically say, like, can you give me the list of deals I need to focus on today? And then you get it.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
in a way, yeah, I'm slowly getting to your side. So
Okay.
you must be happy. But at the end of the day, again, Sri, if an agent is bolted on with the CRM,
Absolutely.
and you still have to give the agent its permission to go and access the CRM, their APIs and everything else. Wouldn't that still makes it even more clunkier, even slower to get that? And what's happening in between, how do you trust that? Because it is also limited to the schema that has been built in 2000s,
Yes.
and this is 2026. So
Yeah.
it does become sluggish.
It will, Ramesh, if you see, right, it's very hard as well, right? If you look at, you've been through this as well, being part of, SaaS and all of that, right? Now, existing SaaS companies like HubSpot, Salesforce are opening up their schema with an MCP and all of that. Why do you think they're doing it? Because if they don't do it, we're going to go to Claude Code and build the whole CRM ourselves, right? That's a change which is happening, right? So that will happen as we speak.
Yeah,
right?
that is happening.
That will happen as we speak,
in a lot of
right?
organizations.
And you're not going to, like, when was the last time you logged in HubSpot? When you use HubSpot as CRM. So when was the last time you logged in HubSpot?
No, I use high performance CRM.
So you basically have built some app, which is basically an agent, which basically also considers HubSpot as one of the data source. What do you do in the meeting? You've been running revenue teams. You've been running your team here. What's the question you ask? You are not asking them to update the CRM. What are they asking? When was the last time you spoke? That data is not there. You're asking for data from your calling tools, right? You're asking what is the sentiment of the customer call, last week, yesterday's call, today's call. What should I? So these answers are not there in the CRM.
Oh, they aren't there.
So I better go to an agent which can do it. Of course, I will start building things on top of CRM, not because that's a system of record. It's only because that is where the historical data is present, but the future will not be there.
It's interesting, and I don't want to brag as a marketer out here, but there was a weekend project that I also did.
Okay.
And it's the 30th of the month, 30th of March,
of course, correct.
and it's time that we also pay our employees and pay also for their months, for the previous month's deals that they have bought.
Okay.
So there is a commission
structure. Okay.
Now I see Venki, I ask him for the commission so that I can make it as part of the payroll.
Okay.
Every time he says, give me 2 days. Give me 2 days. So what I decided to build an app.
You build an app.
And I built it on top of, not the CRM, but I did build it on top of the interface that you had provided, that you had built, right?
The agent you have, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't complete, but I still got the deals I still was able to key in the commission structure.
Excellent.
I could bring in the deals that were closed by the reps, and ensure that my the prompt was good enough for it to write, and then it had the commissions actually.
Correct.
And I had to verify it with what I had done manually, and it was bang on. Right.
Perfect.
So I think.
So what does it mean? So what is your conclusion? What you're trying to say?
I first thought that it was connected to the CRM.
It's not.
But I think we had this discussion in the morning that yes, we did not connect it to the CRM. It is standing alone. It's just all the deals that are available.
Yep.
In the back end.
Yeah, I mean that's the magic, right? So you are able to basically build, or be able to get an outcome for yourself, right? Where you wanted to process your commission for your sales team on time, absolutely no dependency. From next month you get a automated email with a CSV file attached, exactly the same format, where which can be accepted by your payroll system, right? Imagine that. Maybe the week after that, you can basically have it updated in the payroll system. So what happens then?
Yeah.
So that is a way forward. But this will take, Ramesh,
I think
this will take time.
Yeah, it will.
Right?
I mean, the fact of the matter is, from selling seats right now, like to Sri's point, I don't have a HubSpot seat, but I still was able to get the data,
correct,
everything right. We
correct.
are now
correct.
moving towards an outcome, and the outcome over here is calculating, let's say, sales commission. It didn't need Ramesh Ravishankar's ID to be connected to the CRM.
Absolutely not.
So if you are a GTM leader out there, a CRO, that you're listening to this, I think it's important to ask, what's the play out there? How should we be thinking about the tech stack? May not be now, but maybe a year or a couple of years from now.
Absolutely.
I think that's an important piece, definitely too.
Correct. In fact, most of the systems, Ramesh, I think, just to put another thought process there, most of the systems, the current system of records, might even have a vibe coding platform within them, where somebody like you, who's basically leader running it, you have a requirement for that, you should be able to do what you need. That's how it will evolve. So
I like that. I like that whole idea of, instead of saying have a system of record, let the system be elsewhere, who cares? But let's have a vibe coding platform that enables me to get the outcome. It could be a module built, or it's just simple answers.
Yeah, so I think this is happening live, and that's what I was trying to post there. Of course, there is different point of view coming in here, but this is what I think. And I think any company that figures it out first will probably eat everybody else.
I think I like it because Sri is not adamant that with the fact that, hey, I built the CRM, I will continue to be a CRM guy.
No, I think.
And today
I'm slowly graduating. I think it's hard, but yeah.
Agent guy, right? Build agents, arm them with skills, and then I think
correct.
That's what really matters. Let's not think tools that need to be, but of course, simple things like telephony system is something that we need.
Of course. We need all of the tools. I mean, you'll still be using 5 other tools, right? But maybe they'll all be connected differently this time.
Yeah, but you will still need some of these GTM engineers to bring all of the data. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Probably I'm not that far ahead in my thought as much as Sri is, but we'll live. Definitely we will live to see the day when there is no CRM and that's running purely.
Hopefully.
Agents. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed this.
Okay.
Thanks, Sri.
Bye.
See you.